in-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News Today.
New video showing the Israel-Hamas war. Israel's military continuing to build up tanks and military vehicles. Look at this at Gaza's border in preparation for a ground offensive. Israel placing Gaza under a total blockade, pounding it with airstrikes. And it's after the Palestinian militant group Hamas stormed Israeli towns. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tom Miller.
I'm Sally Hernandez. The new news that we're getting is President Joe Biden is going to be in Israel, traveling tomorrow. The president is expected to meet with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during the trip, including a visit to neighboring Egypt.
We also know that Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, will travel to Israel today. She announced late last night that she's going to be going on a, quote, solidarity mission. According to the American Jewish Population Project, New York has the largest percentage of Jewish people among all U.S. states.
A new overnight video from Israeli Defense Forces showing the destruction of what's being called 200 different Hamas sites in the Gaza Strip hit. The violence continues despite the desperate attempts to get out civilians of the war zone. 4,200 people, latest count, dead in the conflict. Water, food, fuel, medical supplies, and electricity are all in short supply in the city of Gaza. And hundreds of thousands of people have left to the south.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. and Israel have agreed to develop a plan for humanitarian aid to reach Gaza. It's after his diplomatic trip that saw Arab leaders urge U.S. action on the issue. Meantime, tension at home continuing to mount due to the Israel-Hamas war. Palestinian student organization at the University of Texas saying a group of men harassed them.
What's the problem? No problem. Just saying you're terrorists.
The group says this was the moment that three men who don't go to UT showed up on campus.
The student organization called Palestine Solidarity, the committee, says it was meeting to talk about the history and the context surrounding Palestine and Israel when the men confronted them with this.
We weren't trying to push like a narrative on who's right, who's wrong. We're just trying to tell the story of our struggle, our truth.
And we spoke to historians who says upticks in violence against the Arab communities and Muslims in general have historically happened after global events. And he pointed to these sorts of incidents happening after 9/11 too.
UT hasn't put out any statements specifically addressing this latest incident, but tells us that UTPD looked into the matter and found no criminal offense. Still, the Palestinian students want to take legal action.
They do. The Texas chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations is also calling for the men in that video to be arrested.
First warning weather with meteorologist Kristen Curry.
We start our Tuesday under a clear sky. Here's the view from our rock and dirt camera there in Buda. It's going to be a cold one as you're walking out. We've got temperatures down to the 30s and 40s in the hill country. Llano down to 39, 41 in San Saba. Bertram 38, 42 in Fredericksburg. Seeing mainly 40s in the Austin Metro, but there are a few exceptions. Dripping Springs, Leander, Florence, all in the upper 30s this morning. 49 downtown. We've got most of Hayes County in those lower 40s. Same kind of deal as we get into the east too. I'm seeing widespread 40s out here with 44 in Giddings, 40 in Bastrop, 41 in Dale. So grab that jacket before you go. Parents, make sure that the kids have a sweater on or some sort of light jacket before they go as well, because it's going to take a little bit for that sunshine to warm up these temperatures. Still likely to be in the low 50s as we're heading to school for the bus stop, and heading home much better, right? 78 degrees underneath that dry sky, so no need for the umbrella today. Coming up in your first warning forecast, this warming trend takes hold today, and it's going to lead us all the way into the weekend. We're talking when we actually top 90 degrees in your 7-day forecast, and we'll also hit on the fact that we don't really have much rain in sight. More on that here in just a few minutes.
Kristen, thank you. People who live in Southeast Austin on high alert this morning after two deadly shootings in less than 48 hours apart.
2 people are dead, both shootings happening on East Riverside Drive. The first at an apartment complex on Burton near Riverside around 2:30 on Saturday morning. One person shot there. So far, nobody in custody. The other happening in a shopping center parking lot walking distance away. Police say they detained a person of interest in that case.
Jason Horton says that he walked past the parking lot shortly after the shooting when it happened, and after moving to the area roughly a month ago, he's feeling on edge.
There should be more security around here patrolling the area. They should definitely do some more like pat downs and have a metal detector at this club right here. Stuff like that would definitely make an impact.
We asked the Austin Police Department if they are going to up patrols in that area after the violent weekend, and we're still waiting to hear back from them.
KXAN tracks homicides in Austin on our website. Our digital data reporter Christopher Adams has interactive graphs, maps to show you when, where, and how they happened. To find this map, you can search homicide map on KXAN.com. We could have a new Speaker of the House as early as today. The U.S. House expected to vote on whether to elect Ohio Representative Jim Jordan as Speaker.
While it's still unclear if Jordan has the votes, the far right-wing Freedom Caucus co-founder and fierce Donald Trump ally has support trending in his favor. NBC News' Ryan Noble's reporting as moderate Republicans are expected to face a moment of reckoning today.
Could today be the day that the House of Representatives finally elects a speaker? The leading candidate, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, is increasingly confident that he is almost at that magic number of 217 votes. He flipped a number of Republicans who had said previously that they would never vote for him, but he still may be a little bit short of getting to the number that he needs in order to get over the finish line. We could see a situation play out on Tuesday where there are multiple votes that take place, similar to what we saw back in January. But Jordan and his team believe once that public pressure of casting a vote on the House floor comes, that many of these holdouts will eventually come to his way of thinking and elect him the next Speaker of the House. Coming up on the Today Show, we'll preview how it will all go down and what it could mean for the Congress going forward.
Ryan, thank you. There are new court documents giving insight into the shooting at the State Fair and how it comes after new security changes.
And the latest from the state capitol months after the federal government pulled the COVID-19 emergency order as a special session sets up a fight over vaccine mandates. Good morning. Court documents are giving us a better idea of what happened during that shooting that forced an evacuation and lockdown at the State Fair over the weekend.
Scary moments when 3 people were shot in the food court Saturday night. We now know police arrested 22-year-old Cameron Turner. He faces 3 charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, according to the court documents. Turner told police several times that he was trying to protect his family. After feeling threatened by a group of men, police watched video of the incident and say that they saw Turner standing alone, but they also say a group of men were approaching him.
That affidavit says one of those men exchanged words with Turner, says that man had nothing in his hands, did not reach for anything. Affidavit adds that Turner pulled out a handgun, began shooting, and in the process wounded that man and 2 other people. Police say that man that spoke with Turner is not cooperating, but the 2 other victims are.
Going in depth, this year is the first year of age restrictions for minors at the State Fair. After 5 o'clock in the evening, those who are 17 years and under are only allowed to be on the fairgrounds if they are accompanied by an adult 21 or older. And that adult can bring no more than 6 minors at a time. Their ID is going to be checked too. But once inside, the guardian is not required to stay with minors. The change came because last summer, Dallas police said a group of young attendees ran through the fairgrounds, leading to false reports of a shooting.
Still ahead, just how long you're going to need to wait to hang out at Zilker Park again now that our visitors from Austin City Limits Music Festival are all gone.
Texas Rangers now 2 wins away from a trip to the World Series. Astros with some work to do as that series shifts to Arlington. Cowboys in LA last night. A wild one came down to the final 2 minutes. I've got it for you coming up.
Live look outside right now from our Rockin' Dirt Yard camera down there in Buda. I-35 moving along rather nicely. If you have anywhere you need to go from south to north, north to south up I-35. Austin City Limits Music Festival wrapped up over the weekend, and after 75,000 people per day over 2 weekends came in, there needs to be a little maintenance out there at Zilker Park. Austin Parks and Rec says the Great Lawn area closure includes a number of parking lots, but starting Saturday, the annual fall maintenance begins. The Parks Department anticipates reopening the Zilker Lawn at the start of November. City says the Zilker Great Lawn will not have to close again for the annual Trail of Lights event and the setup.
After the Music Fest, new information from the Austin Travis County EMS giving us a closer look at the number of scooter injuries that they have to deal with over the last year. So these are people who are on scooters and are getting hurt. EMS has responded to nearly 170 cases. 8 of those were classified as critical or life-threatening. EMS says that they're pushing for people to ride safer when they're on the scooter.
We're very supportive of wearing helmets, wearing any type of protective equipment. If you have been drinking, considering using an Uber or a Lyft or some other transport modality that would get you to your destination safer.
From July to the end of September this year, 48 of the almost 30,000 cases EMS responded to were related to scooters. So just got to be careful out there. Yeah,
dangerous.
I know.
Yeah.
It could be.
I use them.
They go pretty fast.
They can go pretty fast, yeah. But I tend to be on the sidewalk. I'm not brave enough to do it like in the bike lane on the street.
It does put things into perspective. 48 out of 30,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a huge chunk
right,
of the
overall response. Right, it's like the bozos who are like being crazy on it. Yeah, for sure. But as always, a good reminder to wear your helmet.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me show you what's happening outside because, hey, I wouldn't say the big story this morning will be the cold temperatures. Yes, grab the jacket before you go. But today would be a good day to maybe bike to school, bike to work if you can. I mean, you're not going to run into any rain. The winds aren't going to be bad today. It's going to be a beautiful afternoon. Clouds and radar not showing anything for us this morning. We are going to see another full day of those bright skies, that big old ball of fire in the sky. Plenty of sunshine to help warm up these temperatures, which are running very chilly this morning. We've got widespread 30s and 40s out there. I mean, one of the warmest spots I'm looking at is downtown at 49, and that's not very warm if you ask me. Indeed, these temperatures are actually even cooler than what I showed you yesterday at this time. But we reversed the trend this afternoon. We're getting warmer with those afternoon highs. Even by lunchtime, we should be approaching 70. Forecast high today, 78 degrees. A little cooler than normal for this time of year, but still very comfortable considering we've got most of us in the 70s, if not even briefly touching the 80-degree mark out there to the west. Everybody's going to be looking at dry skies and low humidity. That's one of the best things about this forecast, right? Is it's not a stuffy by any stretch. We've got beautiful, crisp fall conditions out there. I'm just going to let this run because I really don't have much to show you. There will be a weak front getting into the state on Thursday. I'm not expecting it to do anything for us here in Central Texas. We might squeeze out a few showers up in North Texas, but this front is not going to blast all the way through Central Texas. So we've got several days of warming temperatures and dry conditions. Not a drop of rain expected between now and this weekend. So now would be a good time to maybe get the car washed, get any of those outdoor chores done that you've been putting off. 7-day forecast shows a good amount of sunshine today, tomorrow, and the next. Upper 70s today. We get the 80s back tomorrow. Gets a little warm Thursday and Friday. Upper 80s to low 90s. In fact, we're going to be flirting with some records here with those 90s we've got into the weekend. But your overnight lows will also get milder. Upper 50s to low 60s for most of the next 6 to 7 mornings.
Kristen, thank you. Austin police releasing video showing their interactions with a man who died in police custody. It happened earlier this month in the area of Research Boulevard near Riata Trace Parkway. This is in Northwest Austin in the early morning hours of October 3rd. Here is the video. It shows that multiple people called 911 when police responded to a report of a man seriously hurting himself with a metal pipe. Video shows officers walking towards the man right there on the road. One officer holds a stun gun when officers approached the man when he continued to seriously injure himself with that pipe. And we're not showing you the rest of the video. We're going to stop it right there because it's graphic. And that's when officers used a stun gun on the man. Officers tried to help him, and then medics took the man to the hospital where he later died. Going in depth, APD general orders state that stun guns can be used when officers find the use objectively reasonable, and that includes apprehending someone fleeing lawful arrest, someone who was violent or physically resisting arrest, or someone who has demonstrated to be a potential threat to themselves or to the public. The orders say the use of a stun gun should be avoided when dealing with people who are obviously pregnant, juveniles, elderly people, people who are handcuffed, or could be injured if stunned, like falling over. And those who suspected of being under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or who are exhibiting what they call violent, irrational behavior toward police.
The Justice Department is appealing the prison sentences of 5 members of the Proud Boys. Juries convicted them on charges stemming from those January 6 attacks on the U.S. Capitol. According to court filings, prosecutors are challenging the sentences that are significantly shorter than what they recommended. They're aiming to get stiffer penalties. That includes for former Proud Boy leader Enrique Tarrio, who received 22 years. Prosecutors had requested 33 years.
Private businesses in Texas could be banned from requiring their employees to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
It's a proposal at the state capitol right now that's going to be debated in the State House committee after the state Senate passed this bill last week. The legislation would fine employers up to $10,000. That's if they take action against employees or job applicants who refuse the vaccine. It's one of Governor Abbott's top priorities, but the proposal is opposed by more than a dozen of the state's largest business groups. The bill's sponsor, Plano Representative Jeff Leach, tells us that he hopes to protect medical autonomy for Texas workers.
I believe strongly that no Texan should lose their right to work. No Texan should be fired because of their refusal for whatever reason, religious, medical, reason of conscience, to get the vaccine.
Interestingly, the legislation only applies to COVID-19 vaccines, not others, and the bill is expected to pass the House as well.
Some opponents are hoping to include some kind of leeway that would allow employers to impose at least some restrictions on unvaccinated employees, like forcing them to work from home or wear a mask around vulnerable coworkers. It is worth pointing out that the last remaining federal COVID-19 vaccine requirements ended, and that was back in May. That's when the national public health emergency for the coronavirus officially ended as well. But legal cases against the mandate continued. Congress, as well as the federal courts, rolled back those requirements for large employers and military service members. And the Wall Street Journal reports the Biden administration is seeking to erase a number of judicial rulings, including some brought on by the state of Texas, even with the health emergency over. The reason to keep appealing would be to answer any outstanding questions about the presidential authority.
Some truck drivers could soon face fines if they're caught on Hamilton Pool Road. This is that area where Travis County commissioners approved restricting trucks with 6 or more wheels. County leaders say the ban is for safety reasons. It's an area of Hamilton Pool Road east and west of the Pedernales River crossing. It's near the popular Hamilton Pool Preserve, and violators could face up to $200 in fines. Drivers in part of Williamson County can expect better drive times. First segment of Samsung Highway is now open. The 4-lane road opened yesterday, and it connects from FM 3349 to FM 973, just south of Samsung's new chip manufacturing plant, which you can't miss if you're driving out in Taylor. Work on segment 2 is underway and expected to be ready by next summer.
All right, sorry, wine lovers, if that's you this morning, your next glass of wine is likely going to cost you a little bit more money. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the price of wine increased $1.60 per liter since August. You can blame inflation for that. Many wine producers say it's the cost of post-production that's hitting them the most. Glass for the bottles, corks, and labels all costing a lot more. It's been happening, though, for a while. Remember back in July, Forbes reported that the average cost of around $46 a bottle. Wines from the Napa Valley area hit an average bottle price of nearly $81.
This is KXAN Sports, brought to you by Thomas J. Henry.
Hi, good morning to you. Well, it's back to Arlington for the Texas Rangers for just the second time in the postseason. And after Monday's game in Houston, they are now 2 wins away from a trip to the World Series. After the win on Sunday night, back at it on Monday afternoon. And Jonah Heim, after 4 in the first, makes it 5-1 with the solo home run. But well, the Astros cut it to 5-1, then 5-2, and then bases loaded, no outs in the 5th inning, and Nathan Eovaldi gets out of it. Astros come up with nothing. Fast forward to the 9th inning, it's now 5-4. Yordan Alvarez with 2 homers, but again, it's Altuve at the plate, could not deliver. So the Texas Rangers still perfect in the postseason and 2 wins away from a trip to the World Series, and they get to go home.
You know, we bring this momentum back home to Arlington, and our fans were they were outstanding. Our last game, the first postseason game that we had back home against Baltimore, and hopefully they're going to be bringing that same energy, and we'll be able to keep the momentum going.
We've only had one game at home. We played extremely well, so it'll be fun to get back in front of the home crowd.
I mean, it's very disappointing. I mean, but the guys up there are, doing their damnedest to push those runs across, and Evaldi, made some quality pitches after we had him in trouble, and like I said before, the name of the game is RBIs, and so we just didn't push those runs across.
K3 tomorrow night in Arlington. Cowboys on the road last night in L.A., trying to get to their break at 4-2. Tied up at 17, fourth quarter, 3rd and 7. Dak Prescott finds CeeDee Lamb, and that's the first down they needed because Brandon Aubrey has been absolutely nails. 39-yarder to give the Cowboys a lead, but still plenty of time for the Chargers to get either a game-winning drive or a game-tying drive, but then the Cowboys defense, no sacks in the game, and Micah Parsons comes up with a big one there, and then still only 3rd down, but Stephon Gilmore right here, right off the grass, makes the catch, and there it is. Cowboys get the turnover they needed, the win they needed to get to 4-2, and just a game behind the Eagles, so they go to the break at 4-2. They'll come back and go home a week from Sunday against the Rams. Back to baseball, where Philadelphia won Game 1 in the National League Championship Series. Back to you.
Thank you, Roger. For those listening on the KXAN Today podcast, thanks for hanging out with us. Here's what we're tracking at 5 on KXAN Today. The court selecting a jury for the murder trial of an Austin police officer, Christopher Taylor, when we could see those opening statements.
Thanks for joining KXAN News Today. You can also listen to KXAN News Nightly every weekday after 5:30 p.m. for in-depth coverage on what matters most to you.